puppets, that's what's coming up on the Art of Bombing, episode 153.
My friend Dan, he's got a podcast, 'cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Podcasts don't get played on tape decks, but Dan is from the 80s. So hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing.
Thanks for tuning in to a brand new episode of The Art of Bombing. I'm Dan Bublich Jr. here with you, as I am always in all previous episodes of this podcast. It is August. It is Tuesday, August 4th, 2020. The year that just keeps on going. I'm sure a lot of people think, oh, this year isn't going fast enough. Some people might have the opposite opinion. Either way, no matter where you fall on that discussion, I hope you're having a good week so far. I hope you're finding the week to be going great. And just a reminder, this is the first week where we're back to one episode a week, so that means don't look for an episode on Friday, because there will not be one on Friday. We just have today's episode, and today's episode is fantastic. That's right, it is a great episode, following last week's episode with my buddy Dewey Bratcher from San Diego. I have another fantastic San Diego comedian on the show today. My very good friend, Veronica Burgess, is on the show. And we had a great conversation. She is a theater actor, a comedian, improviser, and puppeteer. That's right. She's a puppeteer. And we had a pretty good conversation about puppeteering and how one ends up doing that. Because I was very curious, because that's not something you meet a lot of. And we talked about a lot of things. We talked about improv and theater and all kinds of performance art. So that's what's going to be coming up on the episode. Before we get to that great conversation with Veronica, I would like to say Thursday, August 6th, I do have a virtual show. That's right, I'm headlining a virtual show. You don't even have to leave your house to see this show. You can just open up your computer, and the tickets are $3. They're only $3 to get a ticket. You can log into the Zoom, you get the code, get the jazz, all the whatever you need to watch it. It's pretty simple. I'm making it way more complicated than it actually is. But tickets are only $3, and tickets can be purchased at buymeacoffee.com backslash Hiya the Comic, and that is HIEIDACOMIC. So if you want to see me do live virtual comedy, check that out. And again, if you want to support the show financially, you can do so by either joining our Patreon over at Patreon. It's patreon.com/artofbombingpod. You can do that, or you can go to the merch store and buy a t-shirt or a hat, and the links to that are will be in the show notes, as they always are. You can support financially if you'd like with one of those two ways. Now, if you don't want to support financially and you want to support the show in another way, another great way is to leave a 5-star rating and then leave a nice review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to this podcast. It would be greatly appreciated. It helps us find new listeners, or it helps new listeners find us at the Art of Bombing. I think that's all I got for business. Not a long intro today, and that's how we like it, right? To keep it short. So until next week, and I don't know. I totally botched my ending. So until next week, I'm out of here. Enjoy this conversation with Veronica.
This is a whole new thing for everybody. And so in the test runs of various Zooms and things, that's why I was like, I'm just going to stick to my phone. It's the newest thing I own. So the camera's the best. The sound is good. I was just like, I stopped fighting it. I just went with it.
Oh, yeah. Your video looks really good. So the video quality looks great.
It is. It's an iPhone 11.
Ooh,
Yeah, I know. This is me fancy pants. Dude, are you kidding me? With the AirPods, I just got myself an Apple Watch.
Oh my God.
I live on the Enterprise now. That's where I live.
Wow. You live on the Enterprise. You're unemployed. You're like, I got laid off from work and then I decided to join Starfleet. It's like everybody else was like, what are we going to do? And I'm like, I'm signing up for Starfleet.
I got this covered, guys. I'm good.
Waiting to get off this planet.
That's right. I'm ready whenever you are, Scotty. Ready when you are. So this is working for me. So I'm glad it looks good. Now I wanted to know. So I'm new to StreamYard. Is this like recorded as its own thing? And
right now it is. Yeah. Okay. So StreamYard. Actually, you can do it two ways. I mean, it was designed for streaming, for broadcasting, essentially. And so you can set it up to where you stream live. So, like, I could be streaming on, and you can stream on multiple platforms at one time. So, like, I can be streaming on YouTube and to Twitch, all these different Facebook pages, or they have a backdoor, like a record only option, which is what I do for the podcast. So it's just recording us. So we're not streaming in front of a actual virtual audience or whatever. Because then the cool thing is I can download the audio and then I can download a video audio file as well. So.
Okay. Yeah. So you asked me for a clip, so I didn't know how.
Yeah. So the clip is I haven't started it yet. I haven't decided when I'm going to start it yet, but that's actually going to be for the actual podcast, capture the audio. So like on the audio, and I don't really release the video a lot of times for these. I did it a little bit when I had more time, but now I just don't have as much time because even, with, downloading the video or whatever, because I don't have the intro music and stuff, so there's still some editing, which means there's still processing, and you know how video works, rendering times and stuff. So a lot of times I only use the audio anyway. But what I was planning on doing, I just haven't did it yet, which I'm probably going to start next week because it's the first week of August anyway, so it would be a good time to transition to that. And all my guests now should have all my new guests should be giving me that info. But my plan is to play a little bit of a clip after I do my intro of the show, because I always do, I don't know if you listen to the podcast or not, but I usually do a little intro up top, which anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. I don't, just take care of whatever business, and then I go into the conversation. So what I'm going to do now, do the intro, then play. It's going to go into a little bit of, basically it's a preview. So the listener gets an idea of what you are as a comedian. Okay. So they kind of get an idea of your voice, and then it'll go into the conversation. So That's the idea.
Well, awesome. Congrats. No, I'm a bad friend. I've not listened to it yet.
Oh, no, that's fine. I don't expect, it's not a deal, not a big deal. I didn't want to go explain everything, although I didn't give you a chance to answer, but I didn't want to explain everything if I didn't have to. And then I did anyway, so whatever. I was like, over here mansplaining my podcast. And this is how you listen to a podcast. I can still make you laugh. That's good.
I miss you, buddy.
Oh, likewise. I was so sad. I was supposed to be in San Diego. Yeah, at the beginning of beginning of May. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I was looking forward to it. I was like, "Cool, Booblets is coming."
Yeah, I was too. It was very sad, but
many things. I was supposed to go to New York in March.
Oh wow!
And honestly, I if I would have gone through with it, because it wasn't locked down yet, but I would have gotten stuck there.
Oh, that would have been bad.
I mean, there were worse places, but I was like, I don't want to be stuck there. I love my friend, but I want to be at home then.
Right? No doubt. Yeah. Like who wants to be stranded? Like even though a friend or whatever, still, it's just not the same as being at home.
Yeah. No, she was like, I would have loved it. I was like, yeah, because you're at home. I want to be at home.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
That is so true. So you got laid off, and then you've been doing other stuff or whatever. Have you been doing anything to make money other than unemployment, or like? Because I know you used to do like teaching acting and things like that.
Yeah.
And I imagine it's affected that too.
Well, yeah. Well, I actually I stopped teaching about, gosh, maybe 3 years now. I just was like, I can't do it. It was never my passion. And honestly, when you have teachers that aren't passionate about it, that sucks. I didn't like those teachers. So I was like, I'm like, I don't want to be that teacher. So I still liked working in the classroom, and I still liked working with the kids as far as like storytelling and stuff. But I just went to just acting in the classroom, because our program would teach playwriting. So the kids would write a play, and then they'd bring in actors to perform them for them. So I was just on that end. But that definitely came to a halt, obviously. So I was like, okay, because I was being laid off from my regular job. I was kind of planning. I'm like, I'll just pick up a bunch of school gigs and blah, blah, blah. No.
Yep.
No, didn't happen. So, yeah. So basically, and obviously acting wise, theater, because I'm mostly a theater actor, that has come to a halt. Yeah, every industry I'm in came to a halt. But
yeah, that's like a big one for you, like
restaurant, bar, theater.
Yeah, like everything you did was this, like you like, and you didn't just do like stand up, like you have all kinds of performing arts. You do theater, you do improv, you do stand up, and then like you said, your regular job being in the service industry, like COVID is just like, Veronica, you need to take a break from everything.
The universe was all,
let's take a break. You're doing too much, kid.
I guess, yeah. Yeah. Lucky for me, because I knew I was going to be unemployed, I kind of set myself up to be like, I'm going to have all this extra time. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. So I've got things to keep me entertained. But the cool thing is that I'm very fortunate to, having been in all of these different outlets, I've developed relationships in all of these outlets where people thankfully enjoy working with me. So I've kept really busy. Right now I'm doing a weekly panel with some fellow comics, Benji Garcia Reyes, Neil Singh, and Brendan Pranowitz. If you know any of them, well, I know you know Benji.
Well, I know Neil and Benji. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. You don't know Brendan?
No.
But yeah, it's the four of us, and then weekly we just talk about headlines and just kind of comment in it. And
so is it like an internet show, like a podcast type thing? Or?
It's kind of like a podcast. We share it on Facebook, and I think
so it's like a streaming show.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. There are all these new words. I don't know what we're
doing. Yeah. Virtual streaming show. There we go.
It's us in four little boxes on the screen. That's what I can tell you.
So it's like what we are right now, but times 2.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Easy with the math. Easy with the math, Dan. But yeah, exactly. So we do that once a week. And I'd love to have you on it, because we have once we started kind of getting into our group, as far as like a core group, we invite weekly guests to come and just basically just BS with us on headlines and stories and whatever.
Yeah, I don't know that would be a good idea. Benji and I were never on good terms.
Okay, I wasn't sure about that. That seems to be one of our factors sometimes.
Yeah, yep. We did not part ways on good terms.
Yeah. You are in a club.
Oh, I know. I'm not the only one. I'm well aware of it.
I know.
I'm not.
We did a little roast thing for him, and I was like, I'm one of your longest friends that you haven't had a fight with.
And then did you tag it with, but there's still time.
But hey, we ain't dead yet, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I know. I think I just have my own way of just dealing with Benji. So I got nothing but love for the dude.
honestly, I had a lot of respect for him. I honestly did. I mean, when I moved to San Diego, he was one of the first comics that actually talked to me. He gave me stage time. We worked together. Everything was fine. And then he just went off the deep end, and it wasn't not just me. It was with a lot of people. He had a rough patch in life, and I'm sure he was dealing with personal stuff and
absolutely
whatever, and that happens. But
it's tough when you let that reflect into your other aspects of your life.
It really is.
Yeah, I hear that. But we're doing that weekly thing. A local San Diego theater called Moxie Theater was doing, they transferred into virtual, calling it Zoom Fest, where nice. where they would commission playwrights to specifically write scenes for a Zoom setting.
Mm-hmm. So now the Moxie, is that the one in El Cajon?
Yeah.
I took acting class. I took an acting class there with a bunch of other comics, actually.
Oh, I think I remember that. I think I wanted to be. Was Jesse Egan in it?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
And Dustin Nickerson was the one that kind of got the ball rolling on it, and then it was me, Jesse Egan, and some other people that I don't remember who else, because it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I remember Jesse was in it, and I know Dustin was, because Dustin was the one that kind of got it going.
Yeah, no, I was really happy for you guys. I was proud of you guys. Honestly, I think always as a stand-up, especially tapping into other resources, other experiences that all still kind of coincide together is totally beneficial to your stage presence.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Oh, I totally agree. I mean, I even, I did I also did improv with jazz and stuff when I was in San Diego. I've actually I did an improv class, a level 1 improv class here in the Twin Cities.
Nice.
And they were going to do eventually do a level 2, and then COVID hit, and now they've been doing some stuff virtually, and now they've been doing some drop-in classes, but I'm just like, I don't want to spend a bunch, I don't want to drop $25, $30 on a drop-in class, because it's going to just be the same stuff. You know what I mean? I'm sure I might get some experience and practice, but I'm not going to really probably learn everything or new stuff. It's just going to be relearning everything, that. Yeah. It's basically going to be relearning the principles of improv over and over and over again. And that's not what I want to spend my money on. If I could, I want more skills. I want to get better. Yeah, I want to get better so I can use the skills better. I don't want to just keep doing the same thing.
Yeah, you're only going to get better if it changes and it keeps challenging you, if you keep growing.
But when you do those drop-in classes, you end up with a bunch of new people, so they have to go through everything. And, there's not a lot. They don't really work on a lot of the stuff. I imagine. I can't say because I didn't go, but I imagine that's a lot of what the drop-in classes are, But
yeah, another thing I've been doing is I've been doing some improv on screen, but with puppets. So Jazz and I...
See, that's a little different.
And I find that it works. I enjoy it. One of the girls in our group, there's just four of us puppeteers, but the other female, she has been doing improv shows, and I'm like, how's that working out? How does that work? What are you guys doing?
See, that's the other thing. I'm like...
I think she's doing it with other novices.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why it's working. She's like, it's really fun and this and that. So I was like, okay. But definitely with the puppets. I wonder that
too, because even with puppets, I can totally see that working, because that's, at the end of the day, that's not really improv. I mean, it is improv, but it translates to the viewer. It ends up being a puppet show, you know what I mean? Or, versus an improv show. And it changes the way people see it, the perception.
Absolutely. And actually, to be honest, this new outlet or this new platform of virtual works out better, because before, when we would do puppet improv, we would be on stage, obviously, with the puppets. And so you're kind of there. They can see you talking. Like, I'm not a ventriloquist. So it was, and it definitely, after years of puppeteering, you learn to kind of get the focus on the actual puppet. But when you're in this virtual, it's like, cool. I don't even have to be here. It's just this dude.
What got you into puppeteering? Like, because that's like a weird thing. And I say that like because, well, no, I'd say it because it's like if a person gets into puppeteering, it's like, oh, that's kind of random. But like, there's a whole group of you in San Diego specifically that are into puppeteering. You know what I mean? And that's where I'm like, how does that even?
Well, Dan,
like,
did you know that
what I mean?
San Diego actually has a guild of puppetry?
I believe it. I absolutely am not surprised by that. I mean, it is not at all. Not at all. I mean, because like Jazz, a good example of this is that a majority of the short films that he does for like film contests end up revolving around puppets.
What do you mean majority? All of them. All of them.
I thought you guys did. No. I thought there was one that was not with puppets. There was one. I know for a fact there was one without puppets because I played a cop in it. It was the only year he did one without puppets.
No, wasn't that Captain Hand?
Oh, wait. Was that with
because
puppets?
The villain was a puppet. It was Captain Hand. And
maybe.
Wait. Oh, nope. Sorry. You're right. That was the Thriller. And somebody was killed in a house, right? Yes.
That's what I'm talking about. I was in Captain Hand too, I think.
Blood. You might have been in Captain Hand, but
I remember. Right. Well, yeah, I was in Captain Hand. I forget what I did in Captain Hand. I think I played one of the space people before they got turned into puppets or something. But yeah, either way,
it's possible. But no, you're right. That was I think that was like the one and only attempt that we've had for horror or thriller. I think that one was a thriller. But yeah, you're right. And I think that might have been the only one. Like the one before was with puppets. Then we did that one. And then after that, there was no going back.
Every single puppets.
One. It's all been all puppets since that one. Yeah, even one that didn't have, there were like some cameos. It felt like very Jim Henson. It was just like a crowd scene, and then they're just like, "Hey, how's it going?" Like just puppets.
That's funny. So what got you into that then? Like, how did you?
Honestly, I have loved puppets for as long as I can remember, since I was a kid. Because I remember even in elementary school, our school library, you could check out puppets the way you would check out books. And I was like, oh, okay. Yes. So I would bring home puppets all the time. And I would do like little voices and little sketches for my mom. And I just loved puppets. And I've always been a big fan of the Muppets, Jim Henson's Muppets, like huge fan, like vivid memories of like, everybody leave the room. The Muppet Show is on. I must watch it. Like it was like my thing. I was like 7 years old and I'm like, everyone leave. This is my show. So
do you have the Disney Plus then?
I do.
That's okay. I have the Disney Plus too. It's fine. Most people do.
Did you see or have you seen the new Muppet Show, like the revamped one that they came out like 4 years ago or so? I highly recommend it.
Was that the one that was on ABC for a while?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't think I've.
Oh my God! Because to me, I get so excited about this. To me, because right, I was like, oh my God. So growing up with the Muppets, like like the Muppet movies, like The Great Muppet Caper, The Muppets Take Manhattan, that Muppet movie, all of it. I love them. I just love them. And so you get to know the characters, right? Like who these stock characters are. It's like watching just like an old sitcom or something.
Yeah.
So when they brought it back, somebody put it in these words that I was like, you nailed it. Watching that show, it was not like watching the old show when we were kids. It was like watching a new show with the Muppets having grown up with us. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like they were touching on subjects that I was like, well, this ain't for kids. Like, what is that? What was
that? Yep.
Yeah, and they grew up with it. Like the moment I realized this, there's a scene with Fozzie Bear, and Fozzie Bear he's driving in his little convertible, and he's just hanging out, talking to the camera. So it's done almost like a reality show, but it's a reality show of them producing their Muppet Show.
Yeah.
So it's like
almost like 30 Rock.
Yes. Yes, it's got a 30 Rock feel. And actually, it's not the Muppet Show they produce. It's Miss Piggy's show. Oh, okay. So anyway, but there's a scene where Fozzie is talking to the camera, and he's talking about dating. And he was like, yeah, he's like, I've been on some dating apps, and I did join this one that said, like, looking for bears. But I found out I wasn't that kind of bear. And I was like, did the Muppets just make a gay joke right now? Yes, they did. Yes, they did, Dan. So yep. So it was awesome. It was like they grew, like they're addressing my generation. Absolutely. Like, hey, we know what you guys have been through. We'll talk about it, kind of thing.
Yep.
So I was really, which I was really disappointed it didn't keep on going. I think it only had one season, maybe two. I'm not sure, but
that's probably why, because it was like, oh wait, this is not for kids. we're given the wrong idea.
maybe
the exact thing that made it good is probably what caused it to be canceled.
I know. And God bless Jason Segel for bringing back and making a new movie and giving them new life for the next generation, but I was happy to see that. I'm like, yes, they still speak to me.
Yeah. Well, so he's always been big into Muppets and puppets and all that stuff too. Like that's his weird obsession as well. Like even
weird as well.
No, I didn't. Did I say?
Yeah, he's kind of into that weird obsession as well.
Because in comparison to you're into that. You're into puppets and puppeteering. It's not. I'm not trying to be insulting.
No, I'm just messing with you. It is weird. I know.
It's not like if you took 100 people and all asked them if they were into puppets, if they'd even admit it. For one, I bet you don't find one person. So that's what makes it.
I hate you, Dan Boobly.
I'm going with statistics and stuff.
I know. You're making a really good point, and I hate you for it.
But I think it's great that people love this stuff. Because, even with him, he was so, he was such a big fan of it. In his movie that really launched his career, it was about him going away to write a puppet
musical.
Yeah, an opera or something, like a puppet opera. So, yeah.
I remember I was like, this is such a weird thing to have in this movie, but I like it. And I remember seeing the mock musical at the end. I'm like, I would totally go see that. I'm like, why
You're
is
like,
this real?
I would have auditioned for that.
I totally would have auditioned for that.
Did you see that? I forget the name of it, but the movie they did, the police movie with yes.
I keep forgetting. It's on my queue to watch, and I just keep forgetting. But when I saw that, I was all, whoa, hey, you'll see puppets a lot more in commercials and stuff now.
Yeah.
I would say they're making a comeback, but were they ever really here? I don't know.
Well, I mean, they were. I mean, I can think of growing up all kinds of shows that are. I mean, Sesame Street, The Muppets, Fraggle Rock. So Jim Henson was everywhere. So yeah, I would say they've always been around.
You know what? That's true.
At least as far as I can remember.
Jim Henson did have his toes dipped in many waters. I was I rewatched what's that old movie, The Witches, with Angelica Houston. I was like, oh yeah, Jim Henson was on that one too. Like big part of
some of the Star Wars stuff. Wasn't that from him?
I believe so, from the Cantina.
Yep, some of that stuff he did. I believe, I could be wrong. Oh, the Dark Crystal.
Labyrinth.
Labyrinth.
Yep, both of those.
I'm thinking Dark Crystal because there's a comic book of Dark Crystal now, too. I just saw it the other day. And then, and I don't know, I don't know if he was involved in that or not, but Never Ending Story.
I don't know, but if you look into Jim Henson,
back.
Definitely, you are correct. And but if you just a little side thing for yourself, again, The Muppet Show, but Google on YouTube, whatever. Search on the things, search on the stuff Jim Henson as a guest on the Johnny Carson show. That man was trippy. So when you watch like his like performance art thing, you're just like, whoa, dude. So I think like the Muppets were never really intended for kids in a way.
Oh, I don't think they were either.
No,
I honestly don't. I mean, even like, you know, and I don't think there's a lot of cartoons that, you know, you look at who made them and you know that they were on some good drugs, and you know that not all of the stuff was meant for kids, because you'll see a cartoon and there's always a joke that just goes, you know, just above what a level of a kid can comprehend, but adults, boom, going right for them.
Oh yeah, the smart cartoons do that because oftentimes adults got to watch cartoons with their kids.
Yep, that's absolutely why they do it. And there's no other reason other than, well, they probably think it's funny to, I mean, I'm sure there's some cartoon creators that are like, this is going to be so funny. We totally slipped this joke in. Nobody said a word. And only the few people are going to get it. And they're going to be like, oh, we saw what you did.
There are many examples, but one example, did you ever know a cartoon or remember a cartoon called Animaniacs?
I should stop talking to you for the fact that you would think I don't know what Animaniacs
Just asking. Come on, I'm just asking. Just want to make sure before I move on.
Of course.
There's an episode. You got some.
Oh, you can't see it. Hold on.
Ah, cool. My apologies, Mr. Booblets. That is beautiful. I apologize. Well, to be honest, like, not as many people as I would think would know about it do know about it. So that's why I always ask, because I'm like, how do you not know about Animaniacs?
Yeah. Well, I feel like a lot of people know about Animaniacs. They just didn't realize that's what it was called. Because when you start bringing up characters, like if you say Pinky and the Brain, they're like, oh yeah, I remember that cartoon, or, you know, oh, don't you remember Dottie, or what, you know? So like
Yakko, Wacko, and Dot.
Yep.
I love those kids, those weird puppy children or whatever they were called. There's a scene though where Yakko tells Dot to get fingerprints, and she comes back holding prints, and then he goes, fingerprints, and it was a weird moment. Fingerprints. Yeah. Anyway, I'm like, that's super dirty. It's super dirty. Why? What?
Oh yeah. Yep. I think that's what most people that are into making cartoons and stuff, especially for kids, I think their goal is to, it's more about getting it past the studio heads, I think. Like, can I get this in? Will they catch this? Let's see if they catch it. And then when they don't, they're like, yeah, I got one passed.
Right? I think animation writers, there's just a bunch of guys in a room always like this.
Yeah, waiting to get yelled at.
Just waiting.
You know,
did they catch it?
Am I about to be written up and reprimanded for this? Again?
Right? And then one dude in the corner, I told you guys not to do it. I told you guys. You know it.
So yes, yep. Totally see that. Told you not to do it.
Told you guys not to do it. Nope. Now you guys are all stressed out.
Oh man, that's great.
Good stuff.
Oh, that's too funny. I just picture that.
So to answer your question, I've always been into puppets.
Okay, I mean, you literally have to be.
It was just kind of a thing. But I was going to tell you, like, with the San Diego Guild of Puppetry, they came to work, help us with some puppets for a play, but I wasn't even back into puppets yet, like officially, like doing improv shows. And of course, the lady being the head of the guild, she's got all kinds of toys and puppets and things and weird stuff all around. I was like, cool. So I started playing around with some, and I was like making it walk. She had a little handle, and I'm making it walk and do all this stuff. And she was looking at me. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, is it okay if I play with this while we're waiting? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. She goes, you're pretty good with that thing. I was like, I love puppets. I just love them so much. I'm like, I can make them come to life. Yeah. And and so it was kind of like, because I love them so much, I discovered, I'm like, hey, I'm actually kind of good at them. So moving forward, like, now it's a thing that I definitely pursue and like try to make things, happen within it, adding it to things. So it's really fun. I love it. It's an extension of your creativity. Yeah,
no, for sure. And it's still stage performance. It's a different, you're still doing, like you said, with the improv and stuff. So you're still getting your stage. But it's funny too, because when you were talking about it and the lady coming with all her toys and stuff, there's an episode of Two Broke Girls where Andy Dick plays a street puppeteer, a street puppet busker. And he's like doing his puppet thing in front of their business or whatever. And they're trying to get him to leave because he's blocking their door and but he goes in and falls down, and then he tries to sue him, but he's trying to sue him just to get his puppet repaired, because when he fell on it. And then they like show up at his house or at his apartment, and it's just wall to wall puppets and creepy. I don't know what the name of the episode was, and because I just sometimes it's not a show that I watch a lot, but
you're amongst friends here, Dan. It's okay.
Well, no, once this podcast released, people are going to be like, "You watch that, Dan? How dare you?" No, just kidding. No, but it's one of them things. Like, it's like if it's on, because they usually show reruns, and I don't have cable, so like sometimes at bed, it's usually on at night, and instead of like putting something on to stream or whatever, I'll just throw it on a TV channel.
It's easy. I get it.
Well, I lay there and be on my phone, but yeah. So, so it's like background noise before bed. But either way, yeah. So I saw that episode just totally reminded me of what you're saying.
A puppet busker. I love it.
Yep. I figured you would. Well, let's get into the bombing part of this. First, before I let you, because you talk about your story or whatever, I'm curious, as a puppeteer, has there ever been, like, when you're performing where you feel like you've bombed at that? Like,
yes, definitely. And I think because you're trying to create a voice for this inanimate object that's just hanging off the end of your hand, and you want to make it as real as possible. So sometimes, and I will say this, that sometimes the bombing can probably come from shitty puppeteering. Because
sure.
Yeah. Like that is one of my little peeves. Like when I watch things on film, I'm like, like it, and it's a skill that you have to practice for sure. So when your message isn't getting across, or the audience isn't seeing what you want them to see, like it's just not coming across, then the audience can just not laugh or not respond because they're confused. So it definitely can be like something that you're like, what are you trying to do with this thing? Because, you don't have facial expressions. You may have one little hand that you can move, but again, you're relying on a lot from just coming from you.
There's a lot of elements.
Yeah.
That can mess it up, I suppose. That's interesting. Anyway, all right. Well, that's a cool thing. Cool little thing about you.
I think I bombed more as a puppeteer than anything.
Really? Yeah. Well, and I wonder too if that's like
more of that awkward feeling, I guess. Like, oh, okay, that didn't come up.
But do you suppose that? Okay, and I don't know, I'm not familiar with the show that you guys do, but is it like your audience? Is it for adults or is it for kids or? I mean, I know some of your stuff, but I know some of it's probably both. But I mean, I'm talking about the improv puppeteering stuff that you've been doing. Like, do you guys gear it more towards children, or is it?
No, right now it's definitely more because when we, Jazz works for Comic-Con, so he was really busy this last month. So we kind of took a little break, and but we were doing it like a couple times a month, and what we would do is we would stream live on Facebook, but then have people comment for the suggestion. So it was still improvised based on a suggestion. We just had like our format and whatnot, but it was definitely not for kids. But we've had to have that discussion, like how blue do we want to be, or should we allow ourselves to be? So we've had that conversation, but recently things have taken a bit of a switch because we got booked for a corporate gig, which is pretty exciting. Yeah, I'm really excited about that.
The puppet thing?
The puppet group, yes.
Puppet group, okay, wow.
Yes, which is called Up Yours. So we might change that name for this corporate gig. So I guess.
Oh, no, please welcome Up Yours!
So that actually...
Which is so funny. That's the perfect name for a puppet group. But it's awesome. I know, but it's funny because that's the name of your group, but you totally missed the joke that I did earlier when you said that you go, so I've really been in it my whole life. And I go, yeah, you had to be. There it is. Whoa, I had to really bring that one back.
Yeah, you did. Call back. Well, okay. So actually, that would have probably answered your question best when you're like, do you cater to kids or adults? And I'm like, well, we're called Up Yours.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. You could have started with that. And I was like,
I should have
definitely for adults.
So this corporate gig now, you know how companies kind of have usually like a summer picnic or like a big affair for them. So obviously that can't happen. So they're doing it virtually and therefore providing entertainment virtually. So we are meant to do a 30-minute kids puppet show.
Ooh.
Yes. So I am moving forward. We're going to start to re-meet actually this coming beginning of August, because that's the performance is at the end of August. So I'm sure right now our focus is going to be focusing on staying clean and kid friendly.
Yeah. Well, and I suppose
which would be good for us.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That gives you more marketability. But the reason I was bringing it up and asking is because that to me, the performance part, like if you're performing for children versus adults, like some things that you do even for adults, it's kind of to some adults they're gonna be like, well, this is puppets, this is kind of tacky, you know what I mean? Like they're not gonna enjoy it like a kid would. But then there's also same thing, vice versa, where there might be a situation where kids just don't get what you're saying. You know what I mean? Like they don't understand the joke or whatever. And so I could see where that awkwardness would come in there, where you don't feel like, you're like, oh, well, that didn't seem to work, because that's a lot of variables.
Yes. Performing, it's a very different thing performing for what we call young audiences. But I've been lucky in that I'm not a total stranger to it, because I know, having talked to some comics that are not clean, they're like, I just can't do clean. Like it's just so hard to not like even accidentally drop an F-bomb here and there. And I'm like, I get it. But it's definitely a muscle to exercise. Again, more marketability. But I would have to, like when I would act in the classrooms, sometimes or the teaching artist that would hire us would be like, hey, let's show the kids some examples of improv. So we have the kids give examples. So after years of doing that, I've definitely had to exercise that muscle. And of course, it's a lot easier when you're seeing the room full of kids all looking at you. So you're like, okay, I can't say that. But at least like it's given me the opportunity to exercise my improv muscle in a setting where you just have to sometimes say silly things instead of dirty things.
Yeah.
It's So look, that's why I'm thankful. And actually, the three other puppeteers are parents. I'm the only non-breeder over there. So I think, and one of them is an educator. So the combination, like, they're actually much more accustomed to being. They're much more accustomed to dealing with children than I am.
That's why they want to be in an adult group. I get it. That's funny. And well, yeah, because with that too, like you were just saying, what you were saying about that too, like I feel like improv in general is probably easier to do for children than like a stand-up. So like I could see like doing improving and puppeteering. It really can really cater for kids. Where like with stand-up, it's hard to just do a stand-up set that is for kids. That they'll get, you know what I mean? Like you can do a clean set that a kid can watch, but that does not mean it's geared towards them. You know, like you're not writing jokes specifically for that audience that they would get, where, you know, with the improv, you can tailor it to exactly that.
Yes. Yeah. It makes it a little easier because it's more of a storytelling outlet than just trying to go for punchlines.
Yep. Which makes sense. Well, speaking of punchlines, let's talk about punchlines that did not land. As we transition to bombing. So let's listen. Let's hear what one of the times you felt like you bombed really bad.
Well, I'm going to start off by sounding like a total, can I say ass face?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they're swearing on this.
Okay.
This isn't a children's program.
Not for children. I'm a big poo-poo head. No, it's one of those times where I'm going to feel like a dick. But, and I will attribute this to having been in the theater for many years and also a decade experience of improv. I cannot recall a time where I bombed so bad that it was just like a miserable feeling. And I think that, like I said, I attribute that to improv and the stage acting, because when a set isn't going, and I won't say that I've never had a set like not go well. Definitely. You start and you're just like, whoa, this is not working. This is not working out.
Yeah.
So I'll start bombing, definitely. But I think also we use the word bombing very loosely. Like a hard bomb, I haven't seen too many. It happens, of course, but it was more of a light bomb, I should say. So a firecracker. And as soon as I realized that, like, okay, this is not going well, then I don't panic because I'm used to having to make something out of nothing from improv. So sometimes I'll just kind of like, all right, well, let's just start over. Like, what will they find funny? And I'll maybe just play with the audience, or sometimes, and I find this, you know, if you just comment on how bad you're doing, that alone gets the audience on your side.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've did that. It's because it definitely shows the audience that you're aware of what's happening. Which
and
I think they appreciate that. Yep.
Because you're including them in on the joke, so to speak.
Yeah.
The joke. You know, you're that's that relatability. Relatability will always work with comedy, drama, anything. That's you connecting with your audience. So if it's already awkward. You can feel the awkwardness when you're bombing. That's that bombing feeling. You're like, I want to die right now, right? And then if you acknowledge and bring them in with you to the misery, then they'll usually laugh like, yeah, you're sucking bad. You know?
Yeah.
So it finds this commonality of like, well, you know, you guys know I'm sucking, so let's do something about it. Let's bring this back, you know? So sometimes I'll maybe do some crowd work that might lift it up a little bit. So walking away from a set like that would be like, well, yeah, didn't go great, but I'm not going to say I bombed because I at least got them on my side at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that makes sense. I think that's where bombing can really bomb on you, because I've seen comics that when they're not doing well, they'll either sometimes just quit. They'll just, okay, well, since nobody's listening, I guess I'll go. Or sometimes they'll berate or belittle the audience. You guys don't know what funny is. Oh, I guess you guys aren't smart enough to get my jokes, or whatever I've heard many different variations, and you walk off stage with that, yeah, that's a bomb. Now that audience right there is just like, yeah, I didn't like that guy. You know, you want some sort of like, even like when you're writing a story with a villain, you still want some relatability or some small
you want
to find one small thread of good. So that's why I feel that maybe I've never truly bombed, because I'm not going to walk off stage knowing that like, oh man, you guys all think I'm horrible. I'm really not that horrible, everyone. Let's talk about this. You know what I'm saying? So, but I've definitely had like not great sets.
Yeah. Well, and that's fine. Do you have a story of a not great set? Like a time that was like really memorable?
Nothing that was too memorable, but it was like an audience that I think just like wasn't really into it. It was like a dive bar, so it was hard to get people's attention. You couldn't see any of the audience, so I couldn't like even try to save myself with some crowd work. So it was just like, this feels really
Why couldn't you see
alone.
the audience? Was it that just that dark in there? Oh, okay, lights.
Dark in the lights, you know, sometimes and that happens. So then you're bringing down a weird energy because you're like, I can't see you guys. I'm looking so hard so that maybe we can try to save the funny. No. So that's just weird. And I remember, I want to say it was E's Tavern. You remember that
easily.
place?
Oh, yeah, totally. I could totally see that. Yeah, I remember that place. Yeah. And when there was a few people there, they were all the way in the back. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Nobody wanted to sit up front. Yeah.
No.
Nobody wanted to go to that place.
Nobody.
But the thing that I will say about the manager of that place, he was willing to give a budget and give us money. It wasn't a lot, but it was more than most places would. Yeah. You know.
Honestly, the space itself had like potential. It was just a mixture of factors. The people.
A lot of it was the location. It was straight up the location. Like the bar, once you got in, is a pretty good bar. Pretty good servers. The owner was willing to pay. The performance space was pretty good. Sound system was pretty good. Lights, like all this stuff. Like it had all the elements to be a great venue. It just had that one element that just made it all not work. You know, nobody. Location. That's right. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
But see, and then me though, when I approached it, like I'm not from San Diego. I had no idea what any neighborhoods or anything are. To me, I'm like, oh hey, this is kind of a cool bar. It's right off the what is the
highway? 94?
Highway. Well, yeah. What is it?
94?
It was a 94. Okay.
I think so.
Yeah. There's a 94 here too. That's why I was like, is it the 94?
But since you're not
or am I thinking here?
Since you're not from California, though, you will not call it the 94. That's our thing.
Oh, okay. On 94.
It's on 90. Everyone else says, "Oh, it's on 94." For some reason, San Diegans, Californians, we go, "It's on the 94, the 805." I don't know why.
Oh yeah, the. Yeah. Well, it was right off of the 94.
There you go. Thank you.
You're welcome. So
for the California audiences,
plenty of parking. You know, so like all these things, you know, a separate space than the bar for the, for the show. Like, so like all these things, I was like, and not knowing San Diego, to me, I'm like, oh, this is great. Talk to the owner, blah, blah, blah. The manager is like all for it. Yeah, I'll give you some money to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then as soon as I started, people are like, you want me to do a show where? Oh, no. I don't know about that, man.
I know, and though, I feel that like even in a location like that, though, like the great comedians, they'll still kill it in there. They'll bring it together. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Oh, so I've seen some really good shows in there, even though that there was a small audience. You know, the people, because they were getting paid, so they would still show up and perform. And there were some really good shows that were done there.
Yeah, just not mine.
Well, I said there were some. And when I say some, I didn't mean a lot. Maybe like one or two.
Yeah.
And actually,
you know what?
I think
I'll go with a solid 3.
Okay, well, yeah, well, the contest that we put on there actually did pretty well. Like the finals was a really good show. Like each week or whatever wasn't necessarily that great because it really depended on if a comic brought people or whatever. But the finals were really good. There was a lot of people there, and so that ended up being probably one of the better shows there. Was the finals for that, which was funny because the whole idea of that contest, we were going to do it as an ironic, like it was a joke to us, and we approached the owner or the manager about it, and Mike Castleberry and I, and the owner was like, "Oh, this is a great idea," and so we did one, and then he was like, "We should do this every week,"
and then suddenly, so I'm running this contest.
Yeah, pretty much. That's to us because we were going to name it like some ridiculous the first annual world's first blah blah. Like it was totally to make fun of all the other contests. Like it was totally just to be ironic about all comedy contests. Period. And then the owner was like, "Let's do it." So we ended up doing it.
Do you ever watch South Park, Dan? Yeah, right.
Oh, once in a while.
Okay. See, this is why I asked the questions. I'm obsessed
but
with
I know
Park.
it. See, the difference is you didn't ask me if I watched Animaniacs. You asked me if I knew what they were.
Okay. Do you know South Park then? Okay.
I do know South Park.
There's an episode that is called Sarcastiball. And the whole thing starts with Stan's dad, Randy, just being like super sarcastic about like, yeah, sure. About like the kids playing football. He's all, why don't we just have them wear paper hats and wear bras while they're playing? And so, it's like this weird, like sarcastic thing that goes so far that like Randy reaches the point where he can't stop being sarcastic. And so everything, but it's just like you. I started off with just the sarcastic thing. You're like, oh, it's really happening now. Yeah,
it's reality. The sarcasm turned into reality. It's kind of like Idiocracy. That movie.
Yes.
That's the one where the celebrity got, the president and all crazy. Like it's from the future. Dax Shepard is in it, and they're like, America is basically really, really, really dumb and the president is just off his marbles. Terry Crews is the president. It's a Mike Judge movie, and it's literally, or I said Judge, but Mike Judge movie.
I don't know if I saw it, but I remember it being around. I know.
Yeah, well, if you haven't seen it, I recommend you go watch it because it literally turned into what was supposed to be like a sarcastic farce of America's future. It turned into a prophecy. It's crazy how
Are you sure
realistic.
This isn't a documentary?
Well, it could have been. I mean, it really could have been. Yeah. I mean, it was a documentary way ahead of its time because it was filmed 15 years ago.
There are many prophecies coming true now.
Yeah, well, except negative ones, but welcome to 2020. So you had a show at East Tavern. It didn't go very well. And you think it was yeah. Was that the one where you couldn't see anybody?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, those lights were super bright. They were super bright. Yes. Like I remember having to have them turn some of them off just because we had to like get up and unplug some because they were so bright. And that was because
white as you.
Yeah, because they did their what did they do? What was it? Jamaican nights, I think, on Saturdays.
They did like a reggae.
Yeah, they did like reggae. And then they'd have like tons of people in there. And,
that place got sweaty, I bet. Gross.
Oh, I'm sure. That was like always after the comedy. It's weird. It was an interesting venue.
It was. It was.
Well, we kind of talking about what you kind of do, like, with bombing and stuff. But I guess in the technical thing, what do you do? Like, if you have a set where you felt like it didn't go well, maybe not necessarily bomb, but where you're like, that didn't go very well. What do you try to take from it? What are your takeaways that you try to take and then learn from to try to do a better performance next time?
Well, I definitely try to pay attention to the points of where maybe I think it didn't go well or where I might have lost the audience. So I might either try to rework that joke if I felt that I delivered it like I wanted, or, sometimes it is like, oh man, that joke just didn't come out how I wanted. And so that happens. But I come off from a different, I don't know. I know some comics take bombing really hard. And to be honest, I feel bad for them because I don't let it get to me that much. And I was on a podcast last month where, that was about like, oh, what do you do when you bomb? And I was like, I don't do much, because I think coming from theater, first of all, you're always having to audition and you're constantly rejected.
Yep. No, that's true.
You're constantly rejected, and you have to learn within yourself that you didn't get the part for umpteen million reasons. It could have been maybe you didn't do well at the audition. Maybe you're just not right for the part. Maybe they didn't like the way you looked with the other actors. Maybe they didn't get chemistry, whatever. It could be so many things. And so you have to kind of get that tough skin of like, don't take it personally. You have to just keep moving, and you have to let that audition go and go on to the next one. Because if you carry that like, oh, fuck, I didn't get the last part, then that you might carry that into your next audition or the next project. So you kind of
and that can really relating that to comedy, that can carry over into your next set too.
Exactly.
Where you're like, oh, I did really bad and blah blah blah, and then you have a negative attitude, and then you go into your next set and you're still kind of got that cloud of negativity around you.
And there are some comics that are at a level where maybe they have 2 shows in one night. So that to me is like, you really can't let it get to you if you don't do well the first one. You got to just put it behind you. And each show is just, to me, each show. So if I bomb at one show, it's like, you know what? I'm not going to take it personally. I'm not going to blame the audience or the venue or whatever. If it didn't land, well, that show didn't go well. On to the next one. Because you have to give yourself a certain amount of resilience in this industry.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And that
industry as a whole.
That happened to me, where I bombed. I felt like I bombed at an open mic. This was in San Diego. I was like, all right, well, huh?
It was an open mic.
Oh, but here's the thing. Back then, it meant more to me if I bombed at an open mic than it does now. Like, I've got to a point in comedy where I realize that, like, if I go to an open mic, I have goals and objectives, and that's what I'm trying to accomplish. And as long as I accomplish those things, if the jokes didn't do very good or my performance wasn't necessarily at par, doesn't bother me. I don't really call it a bomb anymore. Don't care. I'm working on stuff,
Exactly.
But back then, it did affect me more, and I bombed, and I thought, well, that's okay. I'll shake it off. I'm going to go to the next open mic. I was going to do, there's like 3 chances to get up, So I'm like, I'll just go to the next open mic and then I'll be fine. Go to the next one, eat shit harder than the first one. And now I'm like, oh, God damn, I got to go. That's it. I can't go home. I got to go to this third open mic.
There you go.
I got to get this off me. Go to the third one, eat shit harder than the first 2. And then after that, I'm like, I'm done for the night. I tried.
I did my best, but my best wasn't good enough.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. But it goes back to what you were saying about how, having that negative energy, because the whole time when I went to that next show, I didn't forget about the first show. I was like, oh man, I bombed, and it put me in a sour mood. And then that that carried over into the next show, and then the combination of the first two carried over into the third, and then it was just like, you know what, you just need to call it a night and come back next time.
Absolutely, because you said it yourself. Now going to open mics, you set an objective and a goal for yourself. And if you continue with that, then great, that you're maintaining that goal, but carrying that negativity to the next mic, you've now rejected that first goal or objective, because now your new objective is to not suck as bad as the previous mic.
Yep. That's true.
It's just, going to that third mic, you're like, fuck, I cannot bomb a third time. So that's your objective, not bombing a third time. Not your objective to work out the material, not your objective to, work out this joke or whatever. It's now, I cannot suck because I already did twice or once.
Yep.
Yeah. So whether we realize it or not, those things definitely, they impact us.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. How do you find your material as far as when you're writing?
Okay. Well, I'm going to tail end on the bombing part, and this will actually go into this. Sorry, I was taking off.
Oh, that's good.
So one of the things, like I was saying, that like having been in theater, it helped me with rejection and dating. So it helped a lot with rejection. And what? And then improv, because in improv, and this is why I tell all stand-up comics, especially the ones that maybe take bombing so hard, take an improv class, because one, that helps your confidence on stage. If you're bombing, it can help with the confidence of doing crowd work. But also in improv, we embrace mistakes. We embrace and move forward from oopsies on stage. And we embrace them in the sense that sometimes the mistake is better than what we would have done. So I don't know, that resilience again, to just like, you know what? So the joke didn't land. Oh, well, move forward. Like, just keep going. So in association, connecting these questions I think improv is like my big basis of comedy, because I'm not good at writing. I'm not a good writer.
Okay, well, that's fair.
Yeah.
Well,
I cannot sit here and like some people like, I'm just going to write a joke and a punchline. Raul Zambrano used to laugh at me because he's like, how do you write your jokes? And I'm like, I don't know how to write a joke. And he'd be like, and I was like, no, seriously, I don't know how to write a joke.
That's kind of the same. Like I can write a joke, but I'm kind of the same where my writing style is kind of a hybrid of like structured and more improv, in the sense that, because I don't physically write, I have an idea, I work out how I want it to sound in my head, and then I go tell it on stage and then go from there, whatever.
Yep, totally. Some of my best material or best taglines have been me coming up with them on the spot on stage, because I'm just kind of working out the premise. And then even a lot of it is just feeding off the audience. If they say something, I'm like, yeah, hey, brr, 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 and stuff happens. So it's definitely, I like that, a hybrid process. Yeah.
And just where I also kind of going with that too, like I'm not even an improv person. I've always been more stand up, and I can objectively say that taking improv classes and taking classes, a lot of people think, oh, if I do improv, then I'm going to be an improv guy. No, you don't. If you don't want to perform improv, don't perform improv.
Yeah.
But I totally think take the classes. Even a level 1 is a good, because it will, even if you're a strong writer, it will help your stage performance, and it'll help, like you said, it'll help your confidence and allow you to interact, with, forced crowd work, if you will, like dealing with hecklers and stuff like that. Like before I started doing improv, like if somebody heckled me, I didn't know what to do. And a lot of times I would just ignore it. I would try to ignore it. I would just I would not respond. I would not acknowledge that it happened. I would just keep going forward and hope they stopped. Yeah. Most of the time they stopped.
Exactly.
Worked out good. Then after I took improv, I realized, and without even thinking about it, I started responding to heckles and things that were happening. Wasn't always good and wasn't always funny, but it almost became like a instant reaction. It was like just happened without even thinking. I didn't even have to think about, oh, I need to react to this. Somebody would say something and I would just automatically react. And that, I know that was from taking improv classes.
Improv is a lot of having and forcing yourself and your brain to be in the moment, in that moment. And I like I said, I'm a big advocate of improv. So I even tell stage actors, regular actors, to take improv. One, because if anyone's looking to be into commercials, improv is a big factor that they look on your resume.
Oh yeah,
and
for
second,
sure.
Yeah. And second, it teaches you to have to, again, just be in that moment of listening and reacting. Oftentimes actors get stuck in this moment of my line, waiting for the other person to talk, my line, whereas you can't do that in improv because you have to listen, because you don't have a script. Yep. You have to really pay attention to the other person and listen to what they're saying and remember what they're saying and add yes and add on to it. So I think it's just so beneficial in so many ways. And being in that moment on stage, Dan, like, it also kind of, along with the confidence, it helps you to like not panic, like not panic of like, what do I, because I've seen that deer in headlight look so many times, like, fuck, it's not going well. What do I do? But with improv, you're not afraid of the silence. You're not afraid of that moment of like, what do I say to this heckler? Or, oh, that joke wasn't going well. Like, you can just really kind of take control of your feelings a little better.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Sorry, I have some questions that I like to ask. Do you have a pre-show ritual or tradition?
I usually like to sacrifice a chicken, but if one is not available to me, no. Normally.
You're like, and that's why I never bomb. I'm a witch! Ah!
I'm just about to say, shoot, if I knew that really worked, maybe I would try it. But Santeria. But I don't know, like, I definitely, as part of even pre-open mic, pre-show, anytime going up on stage, the only ritual I have besides having myself a cocktail to just kind of chill out, take a little edge off the nerves, because I still get nervous, but my ritual is listening to the other comics, listening to the audience and what they react to and what they fancy, what they don't fancy. So oftentimes you may see me still writing right before on stage, which I know can be a big no-no, but it's not necessarily that I'm writing out my set. I'm maybe just making adjustments of like, okay, remember to talk about this because they seem to really like that, or make sure to include this part of that joke because I think it'll go well with this audience.
More like taking notes on what's going on around you.
A little bit, yeah, because it won't necessarily change the order of my jokes or which jokes I'm going to do, but also, maybe I also take notes and I, again, being in the moment, like maybe something happens 3 comics before me with an audience member that is like, whoa. And I know some comics will just move on and never talk about it, but in order to also create that connection with the audience, that's part of my ritual, is to find a way in which we can connect. Right off the bat. And so that's why I want to be present. And I know that a lot of comics, and everybody has their routine. Some comics have to completely leave the room or just wait outside until right before they go up. Everybody has their thing. But for me, I like to just really see like, what's going on? What's this room all about? What are people laughing at? What do they really like? Or, who's the audience member that keeps acting up or whatever. But just again, taking in my environment.
It's funny that you keep mentioning the statement of being present, because that's something I've been trying to do more. Like I've realized when I'm on stage that I get kind of on my head. Like I almost have like a new mantra that I try to like do before I go on stage, which is, it's basically I forget the whole thing because I have it written down, but it's like loosen up, have fun, be present. You know, where it's like these things. You got to loosen up, have fun, be present. There might be one other thing in there, but it's that's the basis of it. Where I'm trying to do that.
Absolutely, Dan. Because my number one rule in all platforms of performance is your number 2. Have fun.
Mm-hmm. Because
it should be because when you're having fun on stage, the audience is having fun.
Yep,
it's that synchronicity, that visceral connection.
Yep, they want to have a good time. Yeah, I just pulled it up because I wanted to see if I don't know if I still have it written in my phone or not. I did, but I had. Oh yeah, here it is. Yep. So it's smile more, be present, loosen up, and have fun. Those are basically the things that the smile more. That was the other one. Yeah. Because that's, and that goes
Smiles
to.
Are contagious.
They are. And, it shows that you're happy to be there. If you go up and if your character isn't like a grumpy character, but you seem grumpy, your energy, the crowd feeds off your energy. They're going to kind of get grumpy and have that negative energy. And then nobody's going to have fun.
No, but even if you have a grumpy character, you could be happy that you're grumpy. Or
absolutely.
Your character could be like, makes me happy to make all you people grumpy too. Again, finding the one thread, the one good thing in a villain or whatever, likability. How was I going to say? The have fun. Every single time, whether it's a play, an improv performance, stand-up, a virtual, whatever it is, I always say to people, have fun. And if that's not to say forget your lines or do whatever you want, stay focused in the project. But we're creating an art form. We are artists, we are creators, storytellers, comics, what have you.
We're creating an art that is meant to be fun.
Exactly. So, like I was just telling my best friend yesterday, I was like, you know what? Having fun in this industry is so important because not only do you want to enjoy your job and love what you do, but if you're not having fun, then go do something else. Go do something where you're going to get paid a lot of money. I could do a million other things that will make me so much more money than what I don't make now. You know what I mean? But so then why bother? Like,
no, absolutely.
Joan Rivers used to say stand-up comedy is a calling. So in doing that calling, telling your stories, making people laugh, bringing joy, how can you do those things if you're not enjoying it yourself?
Yep, that's so true. So true. It's so funny how there are so many performers that act like they don't like it. And some people get to a point where they don't, and they just do it because it's the only thing they know how to do, and it becomes sad. I just read a book that a comedian wrote that is a fiction book. It's called Running the Light, and it's a fictional book about a stand-up comedian that's working the road. And the author, he's also a fantastic comedian, Sam Talent. I don't know if you remember, he actually did come to San Diego. Benji and I put on a show with them at Buster's because him and some other comics from Denver were on tour. And anyway, I don't know if you were at that show or not, but it was really funny because speaking of like being in the moment and stuff, pretty much the only people that showed up to this show was a biker gang. And like most of the show they weren't really into. And like some of the comics they liked, and then when he got up, he was closing out the show and he just like destroyed. And he did a lot of like crowd work and improv and like just had at it,
Right. Connecting, relating.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Sometimes comedians get really, I should say comics. We're all comedians, but comics, stand-up comics in particular, get very committed and very stuck on, I'm going to deliver this joke. Whether you guys are laughing at any of my other stuff, I'm gonna give you this joke anyway. And it's like, we sometimes we need to learn, and this is applicable in life, to just like, you know what, ebb and flow a little bit. Don't shove the jokes down their throats if they're not taking it. Just what I emphasize in my improv teaching is something that I learned is the path of least resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Taking the path of least resistance will allow you more opportunities, will allow things to flow easier instead of you like, no, you guys are going to listen to my jokes. You're going to listen to what I have to say. Instead, take a moment to just, okay, guys, I noticed not really liking these jokes, huh? What can we talk about that you will enjoy? Why not? I've seen comics do that too. Just call it out.
Yeah. Well, and I think that goes back to the having the improv skills too. Like not even doing improv in the sense of improvising new jokes on stage, but being able to tell it, you can see that this material's not working and have the ability to be like, all right, I need to do other jokes instead of this set list is definitely not working tonight. I have to throw an audible and do something else. And that's improv even helps with that. And that's another thing. Like I never, I would just, these are my jokes, blah, blah, blah. This is the order it goes in, blah, blah, blah. And then after taking improv, I'm not afraid to like, oh, this is where I'm going to start. This is where I'm going to end. I know those two things. What happens in the middle? I have a general idea, but if a curveball comes in and I end up telling this chunk of jokes that I usually do towards the end at the beginning and vice versa, it is what it is. Like that's how it's going to be. It's because of improv that I've been able to do that.
And doesn't it feel more freeing?
Oh, it does. Because that's something I realized just watching old videos. I was very scripted and very tight. I was these are the words I wrote. These are the words I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. Improv took me out of that, and a lot of it working with Jazz. He's who got me to do the improv, and he's the one who did the classes. And because of those classes, he got me out of this. I got to be scripted and say my words. Now I can be, I'm more loose, Yeah,
you're more loose and you'll have more fun that way. Again, going back to just enjoying yourself.
Yep. And adding that too, where just kind of going back where you were talking about commercial actors, it's funny how stand-ups are like, oh yeah, I want to, maybe write a show, get a sitcom, blah, 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 blah. Improv sucks. And then you look at all these comedic actors who get their own TV shows, get this, get that. A lot of them come from improv. Like very few, and even the ones that are stand-up, I would bet 8 times out of 10 they have some sort of improv or sketch in their background.
Yes, I agree with that.
And that's something. That's something I've noticed a lot.
Well, you have to take into consideration that stand-up is very much a solo deal, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. Until you're the big time, ain't nobody else writing your jokes but you. Right?
Yeah.
It's just you. And coming from improv, obviously, it's about the group. Because one of the things I teach in improv is your job is to make the rest of your teammates look good. So if everybody's doing their job, everybody looks good. Because it's actually the opposite. You're not focused on yourself. You're supporting the yes and. You're supporting everybody else. So I'd say if a comic wants to be, have their own sitcom, a la Everybody Loves Raymond or whatnot, it's not just you that people are going to watch. They're watching a sitcom or thing because of everybody else that goes into it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a collaborative thing.
A good example.
Have to be open.
A good example of that is Seinfeld. That's most people watched it because of the cast and the writing, not because they were necessarily fans of Seinfeld. And I'm not saying, and because his acting, and even he'll admit it, that he wasn't very strong on the show. Like compared to the rest of the cast, he was probably the weakest link, Yeah. But I
agree. I agree with that. Like as far as like.
But the show as a whole,
Seinfeld couldn't have carried that show on his own.
Yep, no, exactly. But as a whole, it's just like you said.
Ray Romano.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. It's always a team effort. That's for sure. We do have to get kind of wrapped up.
Yeah.
What I always like to end positive. So what's been your best or favorite gig that you've done so far? It doesn't have to be stand-up. Could be an improv. Could be a puppeteering show. Whatever.
Oh, I had a stand-up story ready for you, so I'll go.
Well, that's fine. Go with that then.
Yeah. But actually, it is kind of improv related. So a few years ago, I treated myself to a week-long intensive at Second City in Chicago. It was something that was like, I got to cross off my bucket list. I always wanted to do it. And it was amazing. Like, imagine, not a week long. It was like 3 or 4 days, but it was like 8 hours of improv each day, like, right? And it actually was a beginning class, but I'm a big believer that I think it would be silly of me to assume that I don't have any more to learn. So anybody out there?
I just want to add to that. I think especially if you're learning from other people, you know what I mean? Like, because at the beginning I was talking about how I took some improv classes and I didn't want to take it because the drop-ins, because I felt like I wasn't going to progress, but it's the same teacher.
Yes. And something like
That's
that, even if it wasn't, I kind of understand, because right now it's a different outlet. We're in this little venue, you know what I mean? So
I guess what I was getting at,
for not wanting to spend your money on something that you're like, I don't know what I'm going to get out of it. But I'm flying to Chicago to one of the top improv institutions in the country.
Oh, absolutely.
So I was like, and that's what I mean by it, not what you were saying. Like, I just mean, like, you know what? I've still never been to Upright Citizens Brigade, and I want to take classes there. I'm gonna start from the bottom. I'm gonna start from the beginning. So anyway, so I had just come back from that. So I was on fire. And oddly enough, this was a Benji show, but a Benji show where when he first, and he doesn't remember it this way, but I'm like, I remember, fucker. He booked me for the show, but when he pitched it to me, it was like, oh, it's going to be like a lady show, all female comics. And, it's going to be like a showcase. So each of us were going to do maybe like 10 minutes or something, which I was like, great, cool. And then I went away on my trip and like, I think like literally the day after or 2 days after my trip is when I had this show. So when I come back, I start looking at the marketing stuff and the poster has me as the headliner.
Oh,
I was all, what? I was like, what? Benji. So I immediately start messaging him. I'm all, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you putting me as the headliner? I don't know. Blah, 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 blah. And he's like, what? He's like, but this is what one of the reasons I love Benji. Benji has so much faith in me all the time. And him challenging me to meet his expectations always pushes me to be better. Because so he put me as the headliner and I was like, he's all, you can do it. You can do it. You know, I said, well, how much time then? He's like, 30 minutes. I'm like, 30 minutes. He's like, all right. Minimum of 20, shoot for 20 and, go a little longer if you want. I said, all right, whatever. But again, coming back, just being on fire of like days and days of my brain going, I freaking nailed that 30 minutes.
No problem.
No problem. And I didn't go in with the expectation of like, oh shit, I have to do 30 minutes. I have to do 30 minutes. I just said, you know what? You have your staple, like 10 to 15 minutes you were going to do. So I did a lot of interacting and crowd work and acknowledging my space and my environment. Cause where were we? I think we were at the Salty Frog in Imperial Beach, which is a funky little dive bar with like weird things all over. So I was like, I could talk about this room all day. So just with all that and the crowd, and I had an awesome support of friends that were there. So the energy was high. And yeah, I nailed that 30 minutes easy, actually. I was impressed with myself because I was like, holy crap, could I do it again? I don't think so. But that night, it was just everything, the energy, everything just came out great. And, at the end, I was like, I did it. I just felt so accomplished in that moment. And Benji was like, I knew you could do it. I knew you could do it. And what's cool is that my best friend was there who I've known forever. And she has supported me in many of my different platforms. So I remember after that night, she was like, wow, I've never seen you do 30 minutes before. I said, dude, I've never done 30 minutes before. Nobody's seen it. So she's like, no one has ever seen it again either. But she goes, I could tell that you were coming on like a big high from your improv. I said, I was. She's like, oh yeah. She goes, you were just like on fire. I was like, I did. I came back on such a high from that I just felt like I can do this. And I did. And I was like, awesome. Anyway, that was my best show.
No, that's awesome. That's great. It's funny because I was on Tommy Lucero's podcast the other day, and we were talking about the Salty Frog. That came up a lot. Many memories at that place.
Have shooters come up?
Oh, yeah, of course. Shooters came up, and that's what led to all the dive bar talk. Shooters was literally the first thing.
Right? To me, Shooters was always my favorite open mic, but we never did shows there. But or at least I never did. But whenever I would think of like where would be like my worst set, oftentimes Shooters would come.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No. Yeah, I'm sure that's for a lot of people. That's kind of what we were talking about too. Like that is like as divey as it was a fun open mic, but for the wrong reasons.
I don't think so many of the reasons were wrong though, because I remember hearing little rumors about certain comics kind of being like, no, like not necessarily afraid of Shooters, but really like, nah, man, that place is too much. Like nobody even listens, this and this and that. But to me, that's what I loved about it. I loved exercising my comedy muscle, and that's what it was for. Because you were like, you had to in some way be like, you're all going to listen to me. I don't know how I'm going to make you listen. I don't know how I'm going to make you guys listen, but you're going to listen. And that was the challenge, that really exercised your ability to command the stage.
Oh, absolutely. You definitely got to work out at that room. That's for sure. But when I say the wrong reasons, I'm talking about all the shenanigans that happen, not necessarily at the open mic, but around the open mic. You know what I mean? Like crazy things happen. Yes. Yeah. It's funny that nobody wanted to go to Ease, but people would come to this bar, come to Shooters, and there's like, I remember a fight breaking out while I was on stage, and I almost got beat up by bikers because I was making fun of them when they came in. And I mean, there's lots of multiple comics got DUIs leaving there.
Oh, shit, that's right.
Like, freaking people are practically having sex in the back and just, I feel like I feel like that was the place where you just like, you went in knowing anything can happen. Yeah, that's exactly it. You went in going, I wonder what's going to happen tonight. Yeah. Like, you're like, ooh, what's the story going to be from Shooters tonight? Honestly, we going to top last week?
I think that's some of the reason people kept coming back.
I know they did. And that's what I mean. I'm like, it had all the right grunge to make it like the grunge of a dive bar to make it exciting for people to want to come to. They're like, this is shit for comedy, but I'm coming to see what happens.
With entertainment, baby. Entertainment.
Exactly. Entertainment.
My Regis Philbin since he just passed away.
Oh.
It's wonderful. Entertainment.
All right.
Place special. In San Diego Comedy Hearts.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like it is. Oh no, and it's crazy that it lasted as long as it did, right. and that's actually kind of what led to the conversation as he brought it, because Alan, who used to pop in and kind of do some of the open mics, he's still been doing shows there off and on, like shows, not open mics, but like shows and stuff. It's just,
he tried to book me for one, and I accidentally double booked myself for something else, and so I was like, oh shit, I had to cancel on him. But I was down just because it holds good memories. But maybe I should leave it at the memories.
Well, yeah, and I don't know how the shows have been since. I just know, I don't imagine they're any better because it's Shooters. All right, we're going to finish up. My last thing I like to do is called Pick a Number. You're going to pick a number between 1 and 20, and then I'm going to ask you a corresponding question.
Okay, let's go with number 8.
Number 8. What would you name what would the name of your debut album be? There we go. Words. I don't know how they work. I mean,
words.
This is
words.
Yeah, no. Like, remember, I used to call you Burgess.
Yes.
You remember that? I was
Yes,
Veronica Burgess.
Burgess. I was like, as fancy as that sounds, that is not it.
It's Burgess, you asshole. Get it right.
Exactly. Get it right. Sound it out, buddy. Sound it out. Gosh, what would I name if I had an album? Maybe just that.
Would that be it?
Ooh, maybe. Ooh.
I've always been into puppets.
Your felt or mine.
Oh, that's really good. Oh, wow. That would be a good name of yep, there you go. Your felt or mine.
Your felt or mine. There you go.
I like it. All right. Well, where can people find you? Do you have any social media to plug?
Yes. It's VBurge. I should have put it down right here, but it's kind of different on each one. On Twitter, you probably can't see it. On Twitter, at VBurge. It's at VBurge on Twitter. On Instagram, there's an underscore on each side of the VBurge. So at _VBurge _. On, what is that other one? On the TikTok. I don't have a lot of TikToks yet. On the TikTok, also VBurge. On the Snapchat, the VBurge. Yeah, VBurge.
VBurge. All right.
VBurge.
Well, VBurge. Boom. Got it up
there.
Background. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Dan. I had a great time. It was so nice to talk to you. I appreciate you.
The Art of Bombing is a Blitz Entertainment production. Hosted and produced by Dan Bublitz Jr., The Art of Bombing intro music was written and performed by John Holt. All other music used in this podcast was under the Creative Commons license. If you would like to help The Art of Bombing, you can do so by subscribing, rating, and reviewing our show on whatever podcast application you use to listen to The Art of Bombing. For previous episodes, blogs, and more, visit artofbombingpod.com. Have a great week, and remember, stay safe so you can live to love.